Welcome in. It is day 82, and you're speaking with the Meeples Champion. Today, we're going to be jumping right into a huge game that I picked up many years ago on a 25% off shelf. That game is Thunderstone Quest. I'd had an opportunity to play it once or twice before I picked it up, and so when I saw it 25% off, it's a big box, there's a lot in it, I said, you know what? I like this game enough that I wouldn't mind it in my collection. Here's a good opportunity to get it for some money down. Let's do this. The game is really interesting. It's primarily card-based, and the idea is pretty simple. So you have two different locations you can go to. You can either go into town, or you can go into the dark forest. If you're going into town, you have locations to go, and you basically get the option of, here's your little standee, your character. They're all minis for everybody. Pick one location and get its benefits. So you could go and decide that you're going to try to get more food or light, or you're going to try to get some more cards, you want to get more heroes. If you're getting food, it helps to feed your people, but if you're getting like the light, it's going to help it so you can progress through the forest. If you're going for the cards, you can get upgrades, you can get weapons, you can get magics, you can get items. Or you could be going for the random 4 people that are selected for this particular game, where they'll basically say like, hey, here's a mage, and you can get one. And as the game proceeds, you can upgrade them. You can go to their level 2 form, their level 3 form. And the bigger they are, the more powerful they are. So you get this stuff, you mix it into your hand. Every card has 2 ways it works. You have the options for how it works when you're in town. So if you have like money to spend to go use an option somewhere, spend it to upgrade. Or you bring them into the forest, and they're how you use it for proceeding with the movement and then fighting. If you go to the forest, the idea is there are 3 levels of the forest. Depending on the randomness of what you pull out, it lets you know what the consequences are if you choose to move either from the left to the right or down in the forest. And you essentially are going through and fighting these monsters where they'll say, okay, here's a bunch of level 1s. You're going to shuffle them, you're going to flip them into their locations, and depending on the random tiles you put down, the tiles give benefits and rewards or, something of a consequence if you lose. And you're going to go and you're going to fight this. So then you go in there and you're going to have to end up figuring out where all your power adds up to. Can you defeat what you're trying to face? And you figure out where you guys line up. And if you can beat it, then a new one takes its place, but you can proceed forward. It's basically empty until the end of your turn. And you can keep fighting as much as you want through that turn. So what is the goal of the game? Well, obviously, the goal of the game is to have the most points, but how do you get there? The basic idea is that within that forest, every section, there's 2 spots per section, is being provided by a deck of level 1, level 2, or level 3 monsters. In those decks are mixed in keys. Now, depending on your difficulty level you choose to go with, which essentially really means length of game, you pick how many keys need to be found in order for you to unlock the boss, who is at the top. So you'll keep going. Whenever somebody flips over a key, the key is put to the side, it's revealed, you're 1 step closer. And when eventually, whatever your key limit is, there are 6 keys in the game. I'm not sure what the fewest amount of keys are that you have to find. I think when I played, we went for 4 or 5. So I feel like 5 was a long game. So it's probably 3 or 4 is your norm. But once those are found, everybody gets ready for their last turn, and you basically are going to figure out if you can go and defeat the bad guy up top, and there's options on how to face them, points to be paid out, things like that. So what do we really think about everything when it comes to this game? Well, let's jump into our categories and figure out where this kind of ranks. Category 1, art. So the art for this game is really nice. I think this is a beautiful box cover. The board setup, the different art on the cards, the board, the sideboards, your little minis. It's really nice. I think that they do a really good job of not only selling a theme, but making it something that even if you aren't a big fan of the theme, it's still great art. It's a big thumbs up. Your components. So primarily your components are cards and a bunch of little wooden components. You've got like some blood components, you've got the lights, and then the bread or iron or whatever they call it. I always get confused with that one. You've got your minis, The boards themselves, the large boards on the side that build out your forest, I think they really went all out on their components. It was a very good hit for me. I really think that this is something they sank into the game to try to really enrich the experience. So it's a thumbs up on those components. But when you decide to go all out, that usually has something happen elsewhere. And that would be our third area, which is the price. This game's expensive. I got it for 25% off. And I want to say that that must have cost me still like $60. Now, I don't know, because it's been some time now and I don't feel this game has really taken off as far as being a huge hit. I don't know if those games have kind of proceeded to just plummet in a way. You know, obviously I'll be inputting, as my usual, my Amazon link below, and I'll get an idea as to what it's looking like on there. I know that the store I went to always would like overbuy Kickstarters, and as a result, when they didn't find a big sale, they'd eventually toss them onto their 25 or 50% discount. And this one only hit the 25. They even have up to a 75% discount. So it's not like this one was bad. It just was one that they had some big games and they were looking to move them. They'd been there for a while. So overall, I don't think this is going to drop online or at most stores that much. I think you're still going to find it pretty expensive. And, well, it's a lot in the box, plenty to do. It's also long, and for me, I want to play this with a bunch of people, and you're not necessarily going to get people to want to sit for that length. It really comes back to get you on this whole price size. So it's a thumbs down on that price. Difficulty. I don't feel this is extremely difficult. I think that the setup is very difficult. It takes a while. There's so many cards, and if you're just looking to quickly set it up, sure, you can get this put out in 20 minutes. But the problem is that means that you're just grabbing everything from like the last setup that it was, which means you're not getting your options on changing it up and having some shift in who you're playing with, the characters, the weapons, the items, mixing things from different plays so it's a little different every time. It does, for that kind of game, I feel takes over 30 minutes to really get everything properly set up. And that's already annoying. Then the game itself is like, okay, I kind of understand it, but there are little bits of like losing track of your blood track and not realizing you're going to die soon, not realizing how it affects your hand size, not realizing how, you know, you've been going all in on trying to defeat the monsters for points and you've just totally missed that there's a deck with crazy good cards down below. There's a lot there. And I just feel that the difficulty might be a bit high for a beginner or for a kid, and that it's too difficult for an experienced player, really like an expert player, to want to make an effort for this game when there's such better games they could play for a same or lesser difficulty, better reward at the end though. So it's a thumbs down on the difficulty. Replayability. So we initially got this game through a friend in my group. That's why I knew about it. So 2 of us own the game. We played it way before COVID. So you're talking about at least 2019. And it took so long. You could never play it twice in the same night. We didn't want to pick it back-to-back weeks or even in the same month. And even since I bought it, my copies never made it back to that group to be played again. And me and my wife haven't even had a chance to play. I've pulled it out and set it up and looked at it. I've owned it for like 2 years, probably more than that. And I just haven't gotten this copy to the table. It's been a real disappointment in that regard. So yeah, replayability I just don't think is very high. It's got to be a thumbs down. Your keys to victory. So you do have a lot of keys to victory. It's up to what you want to kind of invest in. Do you want to invest in trying to buy up the weapons and being more prepared for the fights and seeing if you can get some major points there? Or do you want to be investing more in upgrading your people and having more people who are actually worth points? They can still help with the fights, but they may not be specifically meant for winning a type of fight. They're more so meant for, I can compete everywhere and I'm going to have more point values coming out because I'm upgrading them. Are you going down below and ignoring the regular stuff that you can buy, the exposed weapons and items and magics, and going for the face down pile where it's a bunch of like crazy special things that are worth really good points or really big fighting weapons? There is a lot of options. I will say that I don't think that it's necessarily off balance, but you really do have to be prepped for those fights. If you just don't go to fight, you're not going to win the game. Now, that's not to say that the game is broken, because if you don't go to the village, you're never going to be able to fight. So you have to balance the two, but it is close. I'm going to give them a thumbs up because I think there are options there, but I feel like if you get this game to the table a bunch, if you were to get this to the table 5 to 10 times in a year, by the end of the year, you might come back and have a little different opinion on that. I might as well. So, final category, unique. Is this unique? I don't think so. I've seen so many games now that are based on this idea of here's a stack and stack and stack of cards, and we're going to walk you through. I feel like this is, I don't even know necessarily how to compare it, but almost like a combo from being a deck builder to being like, say, Gloomhaven. It's got story there, but they really don't focus on the story. It's more about building your deck with all these cards. But the setup of everything is really about, like, all right, you're really just deck building to go fight monsters. So is it closer to, say, like a Clank, where you're still building up, you just don't have monsters on the board in Clank? In Clank, you're fighting the monsters that show up in the deck? Or is it more like Gloomhaven, where it's like, hey, the whole board has cards everywhere on it, and then you just lead off of that for the fights, and the fights are still cards? I don't know. It just doesn't feel unique to me. The theme is clearly not unique. I mean, it's all just a medieval fantasy type feel. You know, dwarves and elves and warriors and magic, which I love. It's why I picked it up. It's one of my favorite types of themes, but it's very dense today. That kind of theme's all over the place. For me, it doesn't quite have enough to make it feel unique, so I have to give it a thumbs down. So overall, what do I think about this game? I do like the game. I do. And I think it's a game that I will see get to the table again sometime soon. I'm hoping that the next time that there's an extended family get-together with people, that I'm going to be able to pull this out and see if people want to try. But it may not hit for that side. It may be more of just my gamer group, at which point we'll see. So I think it's worth trying, but I think for most of you out there, if you're a beginner or if you're a kid, don't touch this game. It's far too advanced. It's going to be way too much money and too much time, and it could burn you out on the hobby because you started with the wrong game to get into it. Once you get experienced, you've been playing, you've gotten through your Clanks and your Catans and your Ticket to Rides, and you've started to get a little higher level of game, and you feel you've now got a couple years in, and you're like, yeah, I know games. Take a shot. Don't buy it. Don't. I got it discounted, and I still kind of regret it because I don't think, man, I wish I had that money back. But I think, what game could I have gotten that I would have been using all this time? I feel like this one's just ended up being a clutter to my collection by taking up a big space, and it hasn't been an actual contributing member of the collection. So if somebody who's been playing for over 15 years, this level of type game, can't get this to the table, I can't imagine that most of you out there are able to get that to the table. So don't waste your money. Really be sure before you do that. But that's just my experience. You guys have to get out there, try it on your own, see what your experience ends up being, and maybe this one will hit for you. Well, today is day 82. We are speaking about Thunderstone Quest, and you've been speaking to the Meeples Champion. Like, share, subscribe, and check down below in the description where I'll be adding in an Amazon link for this game in case you are interested in picking it up. Until next time, I'll talk to you tomorrow.